Good afternoon. Whether you are in Singapore or watching from overseas, a very warm welcome to our session today. We are glad to have you join us. At SGInnovate, we build and scale deep tech startups into high potential companies with global impact. Our efforts are prioritized around emerging technologies such as advanced manufacturing, agri-food tech, medtech, and sustainability. We are part of the innovation ecosystem and believe that as we come together, corporates, startups, government, research institutes, we can transform industries and ultimately make the world a better place. As we talk about open innovation today, we would like to invite you to join us at SGInnovate. First of all, our Open Innovation Forum, which seeks to connect open innovation leaders in Singapore and the region to promote corporate innovation projects and to catalyze corporate startup collaborations. Second, our reverse pitch series, jointly organized together with the Singapore Economic Development Board. At these reverse pitch events, corporate leaders will present their problem statements and innovation needs instead of the startups pitching. So our most recent reverse pitch event was in the advanced manufacturing sector, featuring corporates such as Bosch Rexroth, Infineon Technologies, Toyota Daihatsu, and TVS Motor. To post this event, there have been numerous startups linked to the corporates, and we're delighted to share that even at the early months and the early stages, there has already been discussions that have resulted in POCs. So without further ado, on to our first pair of speakers. Hi Sanjay, hi Devendra. Great to have both of you here today. And could you briefly share with the audience what you guys do? Maybe Sanjay, you can start first.
Sure. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Sanjay Saini. I'm the co-founder for STEMly, a decision intelligence platform which helps companies in manufacturing and retail and distribution to really improve their forecast accuracies and optimize their supply chain. And we have worked very closely with Devendra here from Barry-Callebaut. Over to you, Devendra.
Thanks, Sanjay. So I'm Devendra. I work as the supply chain director for Barry-Callebaut in Asia Pacific. Barry-Callebaut manufactures cocoa and chocolate products that we sell in the region, but also all over the world. We have 11 factories and 30 warehouses in the region. As the supply chain director, I'm responsible for planning and logistics in the region. And over the years, I'm fortunate to work in various industries in different supply chain roles over the past 20 years. Back to you.
Thank you both for the introduction. So to kick us off today, what does open innovation mean to you? What's your definition? What would you like to see? And what gets you excited about open innovation?
Sure. Maybe I go first, Sanjay, in this one.
Yeah.
I think for me, open innovation is where you could tap into external expertise in different areas. Right? There are two choices fundamentally for corporations. One is to either, do it yourself or try to solve the problem themselves, or to tap into, the wider network of experts, solution providers in the market in order to deliver solutions and outcomes. So what's exciting about open innovation is that when a corporate looks at it and creates that platform and environment, it can be a source of significant competitive advantage over the longer term. So that's really the exciting piece. Now, as a traditional company or a brick and mortar company, there are several companies who are making various stages of transition over into embracing it. So it's a journey, including for us in Barry-Callebaut. But I'm very excited that we are on this journey. To you, Sanjay.
Sure. So I think from my perspective or STEMly's perspective, when we look at it, open innovation means that the customers are willing to experiment. I think it's very, very critical. There is experimentation there is a flexibility which is needed in the corporates to really try things out, because sometimes experiments may fail and sometimes they may succeed, right? So how can we try these new things which are happening? You have IoT, you have blockchain, you have 5G coming up. Are we ready to trial them out and just see that it makes sense, and can it deliver clear business outcomes? I think that's one of the key things when we look at it from an innovation point of view at Stemly. We want to deliver very, very clear business results, and that's the conversation we have with our customers, and that's what we had with Devendra when we started as well in our journey with them. Yeah.
Thank you both. I think it's really interesting, especially Devendra mentioned that how open innovation, what he's excited about is really that source of competitive advantage, even for this more traditional companies or brick and mortar companies. So let's dig a bit deeper or further into this. So practically, what does open innovation, this process, look like for Barry-Callebaut?
Sure. So look, Barry-Callebaut is no stranger to the open innovation concept. We do it quite well for our products. We have baked it into our business model, where we have chocolate academies. And these are places where we invite industry professionals, whether they are chefs or other artisans, to come and work with us in creating different chocolate and baking and other application creations. We also routinely do co-creation days with our customers. We are an industrial product and service provider, so we also have a network of customers where we routinely do this with them. So from a product perspective, this is not new. However, what is new is that we apply the same thinking, the same mindset to also look at process innovation and service innovation. So that is something that we are actively now exploring as well. And I think the broader we expand our horizon, the better for the company. I think in terms of supply chain and operations specifically, this can be a real advantage, can be something that, in terms of time to market, in terms of the cost effectiveness of the solution, or in terms of also the value delivery, can bring us something that we ourselves, may not have. Because when you look internally, you will need the skills, right, or the sophisticated tools in some cases in order to deliver a solution. And the fundamental choice is, do invest time and money doing it yourself, or look for external experts to provide you with that, right? And I think that is the choice that every company has to make. For us, it was pretty clear in this particular instance that that Stemly was the right choice of partner for us.
Thank you, Devendra. I got really excited when you were talking about this. The idea of the chocolate academy and the co-creation days. It feels to me a bit of like a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, a bit of a Willy Wonka moment for me, going in there, hopefully creating some magic or some magical flavors of chocolate. Yeah, so I think well you guys have this culture of innovation. It's not new to you, but maybe also important for the audience to understand how or what were some of the factors that you think led to such a culture of innovation or having this process in place in the company?
No, sure thing. I think when we look at our operations, right, we know there are certain areas where we would like to improve. We know that there are key result areas that we want to make an impact on. Being a cocoa and chocolate company, one of the key things that we deal with is cocoa beans, of course. It begins with the cocoa beans. So no bean, no chocolate, right? I think, as an agri-commodity, it's a difficult ingredient to work with, because it's an agri-commodity. You can't really have a good, control on all the quality parameters as you source the beans from thousands of different farmers, different across the world. So we source it from Africa, from Latin America, also here in Asia, in Indonesia and other places. So dealing with an agri commodity, how do you ensure that your end product, in terms of the products that you make, and in fact the way you use and store beans, is of high quality and consistent quality. So that was one of the challenges, right? And while we have several processes and controls in place, we were looking for something that would give us better visibility and better insight to optimize the way we plan and the way we source our cocoa beans. So that was sort of the problem, or let's say the improvement area that we had in mind, to do something about it. And I think that sort of also triggered the need to also look outside our own four walls to see what can we also who can we collaborate with, what can we do in order to come up with solutions in this space. So it's about looking at which area you would like to make an impact on, or which is basically a requirement of the day that you get more competitive in that area, and then looking at internally but also externally, more importantly, to look at how efficiently and how effectively you can find a solution to that space. And that's where STEMly comes in, of course.
Wow. Thank you, Devendra. I think I hear lots of nuggets there, of good stuff over there that you said. If I may even just stay back, it's really that desire to do better, wanting to do better, and then seeking how best you can do it more efficiently, effectively, and then beginning that outward looking of solutions that would be best suited to get your better insights and visibility. So maybe now, Sanjay, maybe you can share with us your side of the story, and we can hear about some of the experiences of how STEMly came in.
Sure. So with respect to the project with Barry-Callebaut, so we actually had a very initial discussion in terms of supply chain and what are the challenges being faced. And so we looked at a couple of areas, and we saw which area has the best impact in terms of delivering a business outcome, right? So we sat down with Devendra and the team at Barry-Callebaut and identified these 2 or 3 areas which came about. And then we kind of rolled up our sleeves and started looking at the data and said, okay, this is the area where you will definitely look at a clear business result, right, in terms of savings in a couple of $1 million and stuff like that. So when we kind of reached that stage, we identified that, okay, let's start a proof of concept at a particular plant and look at how we can do the blending optimization and the procurement optimization. So that's kind of how we started in the journey. So we did the proof of concept, we showed the value, and then we actually went into the moving into the production part of it. So then we went live for plant 1, and we delivered the business results, and I'm sure Devendra can attest to that in terms of how it is. And then we moved to the second plant, where we are going live in a week or so, right? So that's kind of how the journey has been overall. It took some time, let's say about a year and 2 months to achieve these goals. But having delivered the value, I think it was a good choice of the use case which we picked up and able to deliver. It is a complex problem. It is not easy. The number of variables to look at the chemical composition of the beans and how it is needs to be optimized depending on how the harvest season of the cocoa beans is going to happen, what the demand plan is all about, how much already bean stock is available, how much is in transit. So the number of variables are quite high, and it's a kind of a large optimization problem where we were able to do quite a bit of trial and error as well, because this is where optimization makes sense, because you need to have different variables which are coming in, and you need to kind of adjust them and see what makes sense. Does it make savings in terms of working capital or write-offs or obsolescence and so on and so forth. So we did quite an elaborate exercise from a trial and error perspective, and ability to kind of achieve the results. I think the first one we took about 4 to 5 months to achieve that, and then we moved towards the bigger plant, which took slightly longer time than we anticipated. It's about 3 times the size of the first one. So that's where the journey has been, and we're quite happy with the results, and how the results have come through and how the users are using the system. So, but I'm sure Devendra may have the customer is the king, right? So they need to say what rather than I talking more about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I echo your sentiments. It has been a journey, and it has been really something for us also to show internally within the organization in terms of what is possible when we have this kind of collaboration, right? And it invigorates the team, it energizes the team. It also empowers them to a certain extent to also, be a part of that solution creation. And that to me is very, very important, because it drives up the engagement as well.
Thank you for sharing even just how that journey has been for both sides. And I know it's not been an easy one, and also not smooth sailing. It's been a year and 1 year, 2 months, you mentioned, Sanjay. So maybe if you can also share with the audience, what were some of the challenges that were faced through this journey, and how did you resolve them?
Sure. So one good thing is that Barry-Callebaut actually is a very nice customer, and there are a few things which good things happen. And when we started the conversation early on, Devin, I think you brought in the CFO, and then the president also. We spoke to him, so it was a top management approvals as well, and that actually made a big difference to the project, and all the eyes were set. We were under pressure because now the president is looking at the project, and we need to deliver. But the key thing is that if that kind of approvals are already in place, it just helps the importance of the project to the people who are going to use the system at the plant and at the regional level, right? So that was one good thing which happened early on in the project itself. So and we at that time COVID was not there, or early stages, so we actually physically met the president. So that made a difference. So that was one. Two is that this is a problem. It's a hard problem, as I mentioned before. So it's not that there's no cookie cutter approach for this one. Let me put it that way. We have a platform which does this, but you need to still tweak and get the output, and inputs also change quite a bit. So from a data point of view, we had to make some changes. But the idea is that we have learned a lot from the first one and the second one, and then able to deliver that as well. So challenges definitely is going to be there, but if you have a good customer and the team were very professional about it, it becomes life easier. It's if you have a right conversation, and people are using system, I think it's a great achievement in itself. So overall, I think challenging, but very, very positive experience. Yeah.
Good. Thank you for sharing, Sanjay. And even Barry-Callebaut is a very nice customer in your words, Sanjay. But I think also from your side, Devendra, as this alongside this journey as it was progressing, I think one important consideration is always, how do you know if it's working? So how do you actually measure success in this project, or what are some of the metrics or KPIs that you're looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very important to define the problem, and in fact, it's a discovery process even to say, yes, we do see inefficiencies, we do see losses in some cases in terms of product out of spec, markdowns, or even scrapping and so on. So what is it that when we intervene, what will change, right? What is the before and after to look at? And we quantified that together with Stembly and also internal stakeholders very, very precisely, in the sense that it took time for us to come to that. But essentially, what kind of usage, what kind of quality parameters were we looking at, so that ultimately we have more products that we manufacture in specification, less loss of value due to markdowns or scrapping, right? And that's how we quantified it. in terms of value. And as Sanjay mentioned, we were looking at multiple millions over here. So easily, 2 to 4 million kind of value that we were looking at in terms of generating that value, which we were, losing, let's say. And secondly, also in terms of, the physicality of being able to better control our operations in terms of, which lot to use, when to use it, making it clear to the operations team so that they are clear about their day-to-day, week-to-week, and month-to-month work process. So it's in a way, also taking the effort to further refine and fine-tune and clarify processes as we look at solution in terms of finding that value. So we also took this opportunity to really keep an open mind and say, okay, what do we need to change, right? Both in the physical aspects of what we were doing and also how we collected data. So there is, static data in terms of what equipment we have, the capacities that we have. And then there is dynamic data in terms of the forecast, the stocks, and so on. So how do we manage both together with experts from STEMLY? So this was a pretty intensive process as well. So in a nutshell, we defined it on two fronts. One is in terms of the physical process flow, and then the other one is in terms of the value delivery, in terms of savings as well. So from my point of view, I think it was it is a huge success, and something is they say that imitation is a form of flattery. So we started with one plant, now we have rolled out to another plant, and then there is increasing interest in the organization to see how they can use this model that we have created for other plants as well, not necessarily in Asia, but also in other parts who may have different challenges. The thing is, we need to define the challenge and then work on how to solve it, right? So I think that's how we are going to work. Not to mention, I think in terms of challenges, we had plenty. All of this was delivered, by the way, during the pandemic. Sanjay mentioned we had the good fortune of in beginning some meetings in person, but then we all went to remote work when the pandemic started. So STEMLY and team, partnered with us all the way to still deliver this solution. We started the pilot in a factory in Indonesia, by the way, without being there physically. We delivered on this through great engagement with the teams. I think this is something phenomenal as well. Not to mention the teams at both ends, right? Both STEMLY as well as in our team in Bandung. We had people who got infected and so on, and then we had to recalibrate our milestones. And so there was, as Sanjay said, there was a positive pressure, but we also tried to see how we can be flexible around it.
Wow. Thank you, Devendra. I think really that proof really is that cost savings that you mentioned, just that impact to the bottom line, especially. And how you guys has overcome all these challenges during the pandemic, not being over there in Indonesia, and then going from plant 1 to plant 2. And just Sanjay, was there anything that you'd like to weigh in as well to any of Devendra's comments?
I would just say one thing, and this is coming from Barry-Callebaut and a team itself when we're working. So one of the key things for me, and my happiness comes from very simple things, is that they don't call it optimization solution, they call it STEMLY solution, and that itself is a big achievement for me personally and for the team at STEMLY. Yeah, because that says a lot about how we have worked closely with the Barry-Callebaut team. Yeah, so that's a good. Of course, it always feels good that what you wanted to deliver, and when you deliver and the results are matching, it itself is a testimonial to what we thought about it, what the use case we chose was right. We got the right top management support and able to deliver that to the customer, right? I think that's a key aspect for me, which is quite critical. from a startup point of view, right? Because proof of pudding is in eating, and you have a solution which is being used by the customer and delivering value. I think that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, this STEMI solution. So anyone out there looking for not optimization solutions, STEMI is here for you. um, so I'm sure this has been quite the journey, but then also as we're hindsight with 2020 vision, what are some of the areas that looking back could have been improved upon, or what more could have been done to facilitate this exchange between STEMI and Barry-Callebaut?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, definitely the fact that we were all remote is one area. And it was not deliberate, of course. We were all forced to adapt to the circumstances. So what happened is that online, and when we are doing that, it limits the the value of the interaction in terms of what you can do in person, the kind of information signals and camaraderie even that you can develop when you are in person, right, on location and so on. I think that was one aspect that I thought we missed, but not because of our own intention or that we forgot something, but it just happened, right? The other element is also, Sanjay mentioned about the stakeholder buy-in, right? And there were multiple stakeholders within Barry-Callebaut that we had to align and do sort of updates to and so on. One thing that we did well actually was we got the operating team involved very early in the stage. So there was, they didn't see it as something that suddenly now, somebody from the corporate or the region is kind of saying, okay, now you do this or work with them. So it was, kind of almost a co-creation from the get-go. So, forming a team and then, defining the steps and the solutions together. I think that actually worked well for us in this case. In terms of the speed, yeah, we lost some speed because of, again, the COVID, but we also sometimes were a bit slow in terms of getting the paperwork done. While Sanjay and team, credit to them, they already had started working with us, right, in terms of defining the problem, discovery process, and so on. You still need to get your non-disclosure agreements signed. You still need to get your contracts signed, and so on. So that could have been faster, in my view. Not only STEMI side, but more I'm talking about Barry-Callebaut as well. So it just facilitated. But I think the good thing here is that we did not actually let it hinder or stop anything, right? So with full professionalism and transparency at both organizations, we went ahead still. So I think those are some of the reflections. Sanjay, I don't know whether you have something.
No, I think great points. We had issues. It's not that, because two of the main guys actually got COVID, and, things got delayed in between. And that's why when we say 1 year and 2 months, we know that, there was a time lost between that. I think it's more about trust, right? We trusted that, the stakeholders had a buy-in. And so the process will take its own time, but I think we want to deliver value. And that's why, we started the process with the minimal paperwork, as you mentioned. So I think that's part of the startup. The startup needs to be also flexible in terms of, knowing that, corporates will take some time to get NDA sorted and legal things sorted. Yeah, that is what learning is from my side, as that, you need to work the process, we have very similar experiences with other corporates which we work with, and you got to work that out. Startups can't have that mentality of let's wait for everything to happen and do things, right? And that's kind of what my learning has been in this process. Yeah.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you, Devendra. So we're just about time, unfortunately. But then just before we end this segment, I just want you to share with the audience perhaps a word of advice for some of the corporates or startups looking to embark on their own journeys of open innovation.
Yeah, I would say it's, as Sanjay pointed out, right? It's a journey where you consciously take a approach of testing, experimentation, and learning, right? So there are different philosophies around it. Call it design thinking, call it the agile approach, and so on. I think it's very important to do that, because without this, there is without trial there is no success, right? So we have to look at what is possible from an external collaboration, outside in thinking. I think that's really, really important upfront to get it right. That you need to be in this experimentation mindset. There is no clear-cut, solutions here. You need to be open to discovery process. You need to be also be able to listen and collaborate to, sometimes the questions, and sometimes they are pretty innocent questions. Why are you doing it this way? And it triggers you the thought to say, let me think about it, as to, is there a better way? So be open to also redesign your processes and not necessarily try to fit in on something, to just match what you have. Be open in this process to also say, maybe I need to change a few things here in order to, make the new solution work. So it's always a give and take. And this is where I think, the strength of this solution or success will lie. Is really this, it's not only trying to find a specific, tool or a solution, but also looking at your entire, value chain, and in that particular scope and area, really adopting that open mindset. And that's really one of
Thank you, Devendra. I think just that openness. And Sanjay, maybe over to you, just a quick word of advice for our audience.
Yeah, from a startup point of view, I think it's key to understand a little bit deeper and go a little bit deeper in terms of just not offer a product, you offer a solution. I think I always feel that, what we have built is what we want to sell. And I think that doesn't work out well a whole lot of time. So we need to listen to the customers and understand what are the use cases which they are important to them, and what are they looking for, and then we talk from a solution point of view. I think that's what I feel. I've been working in cloud and supply chain technology space for 20 years, so I've learned those lessons. But my suggestion to startups is that don't focus too much on technology. First, look at what the business problem you're trying to solve, and then you go into the technology aspect of it. It's, if the business doesn't understand the solution, well, there is no buy-in from that perspective, right? So that's kind of how I feel the startups in B2B SaaS particularly need to do. Yeah.
Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing your insights and thoughts. And we're so glad to have had you here today.
Pleasure.
Thanks,
Annabelle. Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Now, over to our next pair, Surbi and Chuan-Shen. Welcome, Surbi, and welcome, Chuan-Shen. We're glad to have both of you here with us today. If you could briefly share a bit about yourselves for our audience to get to know you. Surbi?
Hello, Annabelle. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to be on the ITA panel today. I'm Surbi. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Fivevisor. We are an AI for manufacturing company focusing on reducing the cost of poor quality for manufacturing companies. So yeah, that's what we do, and very happy to be joined by ARTC on the panel today as well. We have Chuan-Shen here, and yeah, over to him now to introduce himself as well.
Thanks, Surbi. Hi, I'm Chuan-Shen. I'm currently a business development manager at ARTC. So ARTC is one of the research institute under A-Star, and I handle a few key accounts, and also I lead the startup initiatives in ARTC. So I'm a mechanical engineer by training. So all this like open innovation and engineering topics are really interesting for me.
Thank you both. So let's maybe start off with your sensing on how things are. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the level of innovation in the manufacturing industry now, and what does that number entail?
Maybe I'll go first.
Sure.
That's okay. Yeah. So I think on a scale of 1 to 10, I think I would rate the level of innovation maybe about a 6. I think the level of innovation in manufacturing is not consistent. It is it varies. Some industries are very advanced in their innovation initiatives. Some are still somewhat lacking. Like some industries like food manufacturing is still quite labor intensive and things are pretty manual. And traditional, but some industries, especially industries where there are a lot of MNCs, like in process industries or semicon industries, they are a lot more forward-looking, and actually I feel that they're quite innovative already. Yeah, how I feel.
Yeah, I think I agree definitely with Chanshan on that. It really depends on what specific manufacturing vertical we are talking about. Some, like the silicon-based industries, typically are much more innovative than the others. But even so, maybe in terms of, let's say, the timeline, an interesting observation has been that maybe around 5 to 7 years back, or yeah, roughly 5 years back, I would rate it at maybe around 4. But now I would rate it at 6 or above easily, because I do feel like there's like this a lot of push of late to sort of innovate faster and implement newer, connected, more powerful solutions. So I feel like if anything, like no matter what the baseline is, it has definitely accelerated a lot lately.
Yeah, actually, I agree, Subi. I think there's recently I see a lot of new initiatives, especially in the manufacturing industry, where there's a lot of acceleration in innovation. I think in January this year, Minister Chan announced this plan for the manufacturing industry to grow by 50% over the next 10 years. So I feel it's quite an ambitious target, and that is why we need to use innovation to ramp up this innovation, the speed of innovation at the moment.
So I think hearing from both of you, we're at a sort of a 6 now. And so looking into the future, in the next maybe 5 years, on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you hope the level of innovation would be, and what would that number entail?
Okay, I think it will be definitely a 7 the moment you start to see more and more connected factories. So, whenever we explain our products to people, we always use we always make it analogous with this data science hierarchy of needs, right? Which means that, you need to build your basics first before you go further up. So let's say if it's a 6 now, and that 6 sort of accelerates, building your basic infrastructure. So, building data systems, being on the cloud, enabling your data to be pulled on from all of your different systems, right? That will automatically make it easier for you to build more advanced systems. And then this 6 will lead to a lot more companies becoming an 8 in near future. So I personally feel like it is going to be an 8 in near future, because once you have these connected systems, or let's say the capability to be building connected systems and deriving value out of the assets that you have, the data that you have, right? It will instantly become it just becomes easier to get to the next level. So this 6 will become an 8 in the next 5 to 10 years definitely, and it will be sort of driven by this 6 currently is what I think.
I agree. I think maybe in the next 5 years, it will be probably like a 7 or so, 6, 7, maybe even 8. But I think the bulk of the acceleration maybe will come in maybe after 5 years, because like what Subi mentioned, a lot of industries, I think at this time, they don't even have data in a digital format. Everything is very manual in a paper format, and you can't do much analytics on it at the moment. But once more industries, more companies come on board and digitalize their operations, then we can have the data to work on and put in like the data analytics, the AI, and then that will really accelerate when the whole ecosystem, from the suppliers, the end users, from the end users down to like the tier 1, tier 2, and then eventually the suppliers. All this, you can see a huge jump in acceleration only when the whole ecosystem is being connected, digitally connected.
Yeah, I think just a quick add-on there. I think there's a bit of pain in going from the in these incremental gains. So going from a 6 to 7, so going from a 3 to 6 will be extremely painful. 6 to 8 will not be as painful. I mean, that's just a thought that I've personally seen happening a lot with companies. So yeah, just something to add on there. Yeah.
Right. That's true.
Thank you very much, both. I think whether we move from a 6 to hopefully moving to a 7 or 8 in the next 5 years, I think we're hopeful. And also, what Surbi mentioned, as a lot more factories become connected, and so as Transhan mentioned, a lot more data comes in, we all get plugged in, and having that data science hierarchy of needs coming in. So I am hopeful too that we'll get from the 6 to an 8 in 5 years. So for now, let's learn how can we possibly get there. So Transhan, given your work at ARTC, could you share with us, how does ARTC encourage and promote open innovation amongst its members?
Yeah, so maybe I just talk a little bit about ARTC and what we do. So ARTC is quite special because we operate more like in a consortium model. So members are encouraged to collaborate with one another in projects. And also the members are grouped into various industry verticals. So right now we have over 80 members, industry members. They range from the MNCs to the startups to the SMEs. And the idea is that we group these members into industry verticals so that there is already a supply chain developed, so that, let's say, a solution is being created, the end users will adopt the solution, and then there will be a stream of suppliers who can supply the solution and maintain the solution for the end users. So that's how we work in ARTC, and this also facilitates the cross-pollination of ideas and technology. Yeah. And so at ARTC, we also organize the Advanced Manufacturing Startup Challenge, where we invite startups to submit their proposals to solve problem statements that are curated from our members. So this year we are in our third cycle. We have just launched this third cycle last week together with IMDA on the OIP platform. And the theme is Automation 4.0. So what we do in this startup challenge is we invite these startups to submit their proposals for these problem statements that were posed by our members. So we work with our members, we curate the problem statements, we find them into a manner that is easy for the startups to kind of understand and tackle. And then how ARTC helps this whole process is we support the startups to deliver these POCs, proof of concept, from a technical angle, because in ARTC, our kind of domain expertise is in advanced manufacturing. So we like to grow the advanced manufacturing startup ecosystem in Singapore, and this is how we try to do it.
Thank you, Transhan. And actually, since we're on the work of ARTC, maybe Surbi, if you could also weigh in if you've had what your experience working with ARTC was like as a startup, coming from the startup angle.
Sure. So yeah, for starters, definitely ARTC has been a great platform simply because they've been so focused on manufacturing services and let's say the entire value chain when it comes to manufacturing innovation, right? So it's very helpful in a sense that there's like a centralized platform wherein both all the parties, ARTC, the startup which is providing the solutions, and the company which needs the solutions sort of come together. So that is very powerful, and they are able to do that for a lot of different types of use cases. So yeah, definitely been an amazing experience working with them on this. And also, in terms of support, ARTC has been providing extremely good support in order to help the startups make the solution work, right? So that has also been pretty incremental, because definitely you have to interact with the companies in implementing the POCs, leading up to successful implementation. While we might have the best tech, a lot of times you might still need support in terms of trying to reach out to the company and sort of interacting with the different layers within the company. So that has been extremely helpful. So I guess and also, I mean, it's more curated in a sense that not all startups who have a certain offering might be the best matches for a certain company that needs that. A lot of, especially in manufacturing, a lot of use cases might sound similar, but when I actually go deeper, they're not, right? So it's really important to sort of be able to pick that out of this large pie of manufacturing, what are the specific needs of certain companies and what are the startups providing those solutions. So I think in terms of that curation, also ARTC has been pretty powerful. I think also because they understand the use cases really well. So yeah, that has been very helpful to us in being able to implement this solution wherein, I mean, for this particular use case, for example, the inspection was, firstly, it was automated entirely for a very important medical sampling test kit. It was we were able to automate the inspection entirely for them. Plus, the inspection accuracy was really high. I think it's higher than what we've seen in the industry so far, right? So yeah, this sort of collaboration is what helped us achieve that, definitely. So this is just one example of how working together with ARTC and similar open innovation platforms has been extremely helpful.
Thank you both. So maybe let's dive a bit deeper into specific examples. I know Surbhi, you sort of briefly touched upon it, but if we can hear from both of you, what were some of the specific examples of collaborating together, of open innovation, of working together, startups and corporates working together? Just hearing from your experiences there.
Yeah, maybe I can chime in a bit on this. So through this startup challenge, we have seen a couple of the startups that we helped deliver successful POCs to our members. How this was done was because, like I think Subi mentioned, is that a lot of these problem statements actually sound very similar, but I think there's a need for startups, and also from ARTC point of view is that we understand the specific use case, the technology application, so that we can help the startups to develop the POCs further, so that it can really solve the problems that these corporates face. So I feel that I think one of the examples, like we mentioned in her case, when she developed this medical, like a testing inspection solution, initially the problem statement wasn't well defined. It was a bit fuzzy. So ARTC, we stepped in together with Five-Eyes. We looked at the solution, the problem statement that one of our members were facing, and then we developed a project plan around it. And because ARTC, we are in this advanced manufacturing sector, right? So we understand what are the needs, what are the nuances that are present in this project. So our technical guys, the technical team, our scientists and engineers, they could kind of advise Five-Eyes, okay, perhaps what kind of sensors do we use, what kind of cameras do we use? Because a lot of these projects requires some kind of customization. And perhaps from like a startup's point of view, maybe they did not have that prior experience working on this particular application. Like for example, medical test tubes perhaps could be new to you, right? So we the project. So we could provide that kind of advice. And I think on the startup side, it was really very impressive of Five-Eyes to be able to use machine vision and things like that to accurately detect any defects that will be present during the manufacturing process. Yeah, so that was what I felt was really successful about that program.
Yeah, just to add on to that, like Johnson mentioned, right? As a startup, you have your core offerings which are for specific verticals, right? And which is more repeatable in a sense. But when you are venturing into newer verticals, you need to sort of kind of go back to the whiteboard a little bit, right? So yeah, that's while the core tech might be applicable, identifying where it applies and sort of being able to use that in venturing into newer verticals and then sort of developing a solution for the newer verticals there is something that can happen with such use cases there. So yeah, that's definitely also something that ARTC has helped us with in this use case, and yeah, that's been. Great.
So this entire process, right? What are some of the other learnings that you've had that you'd like to share with some of the other startups out there?
Sure. Okay, I think I would say that the first learning is that, of course, guess stick to your core offering. Definitely, a lot of times, in order to sort of try to do to work with maybe newer companies or just try to get new opportunities, you might try to do entirely new things. I would discourage against. I would discourage companies from going too off your core product, right? In that case, so yeah, I guess look at it as the whole point of this sort of matchmaking or innovation platforms is to be able to match what you have to offer with the company's problems, right? So yeah, I would say the first learning would be not to go too far away from your core offering, right? So don't get distracted. Is
overly customizing?
Yeah. So don't overly customize. Definitely take your core tech offering and then see whether it can be applied or not, right? So that's definitely the first thing I would say. And then the second thing is, yeah, I mean, in terms of, let's say, the open innovation platforms, right? So I know even SGI has is sharing opportunities on its website now. So basically, be open in the sense of know what you can leverage from these platforms, right? So for ARTC, the ARTC team would help us even on the technical side quite a bit, not only in the scoping, but even on the technical side. They could help us out with certain things. So yeah, basically sort of be open or keep your eyes open as to what resources are out there to leverage, right? So these would be the top two things when getting into co-innovation. And yeah, it's definitely a lot of partnership that works here. So keep checking in with all of the stakeholders regularly to see where things are at. Yeah.
Thank you, Surabhi. Maybe Chuanshen, we can also quickly just hear from you, before we end off this panel. What are some of the areas that you think are ripe for open innovation in manufacturing?
Okay, I think there are certain industry verticals that are pretty ripe for open innovation. For example, like precision engineering, the automation industry, and also like machine vision. Because in my conversations with corporates and people in the community in advanced manufacturing, a lot of these problem statements revolve around these themes in these industry verticals. And I think this area is really ripe for open innovation because as the advances in machine vision and in AI algorithm has been really tremendous over the past couple of years. And I think PhiVisor is really well positioned in this area. So yeah, I think these areas will be poised for really huge growth in the next coming years.
So audience, I hope you've taken down notes in what Chuanshen has said, and you'll be also working or looking out in these areas. So as a last question, any parting thoughts you would like to leave with our audience? Surabhi?
Sure. Yeah, I think one quick parting thought would be, yes, I think, if you're looking to implement AI, especially in the silicon-based industries or generally in high-volume discrete manufacturing, definitely look at PhiVisor and companies like PhiVisor because there's a lot more scope these days. It's becoming easier to implement, and once you're done with that initial pain of solving the problem of data collection and classifying defects, you can do a lot more with it. So for example, at this stage, we are not only able to detect defects, but we are also analyzing it in real time, showing the engineers the entire picture, right? So irrespective of what hardware you have on your machine, you can basically connect to a single software platform. And that to me is powerful. Whether we do it or someone else does it, it's extremely powerful, right? So yeah, I think the parting thought would be to sort of get over that initial a lot of times larger organizations would have some resistance, right, in terms of implementation. So once you get over that, the potential is pretty huge.
Thank you, Surbi. And Chanshan, a quick passing thought?
Yeah, so for me, I think there are two main parting thoughts that I like just to give with the audience. I think number one, I like to encourage a lot of corporates or SMEs or companies out there, big and small, to join this open innovation movement and to work with startups, because I think there's a lot of opportunities for collaboration in these areas. And then secondly, for startups, I think I hope to see a lot more entrepreneurs, especially like Subi and Firevisor in the deep tech space, because I think deep tech is not easy, it's very difficult, but they solve really huge problems in the manufacturing space and scientific technology space, and it is really a very promising industry. And I hope to see a lot more of these startups solving these big problem statements in the years to come.
So thank you very much, Surbi and Chanshan, for sharing your experiences with us. And audience, you guys know who to look up for any collaboration or engineering defects. Go to Surbi, and then for any ARTC open innovation wanting to join, go look for Chanshan. Thank you very much once again.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Annabelle. Thanks,
you.
The session may be over today, but there remains much to be done for digital transformation and open innovation. We've heard some of the experiences and best practices from our speakers. Now, over to all of you to help make an impact. Thank you very much, everyone, for being part of this movement, and have a pleasant day and evening ahead.